Rip off the mask and get to the desk and jump to the rotation. How's that?
Dude,
No, I didn't want to scare you like I did last week.
it's way too fucking early, man.
Okay, well, welcome to the early show on Sunday. For those of us who had late nights, it's an early Sunday, even though we start at like 10:30 in the morning. My name is Gary Stein. I am your political director for Suncoast Normal. This is my co-host, Carlos Armida, our beautiful assistant director, and our executive director, still stuck in the Beltway, as if some magnetic force is keeping him there, or possibly a job. It is Chris Cano, our executive director. And how are things over there in D.C. today, Chris? What's new over there?
Well, interesting enough, some movement for the first time in the United States Senate on ending federal prohibition. The Senate Majority Leader for the Democrats, Senator Chuck Schumer from New York, is working with Senator Cory Booker from New Jersey and Senator Ron Wyden from Oregon to produce essentially an omnibus cannabis legalization bill, which will address the Schedule I status of cannabis federally and remove it from the Controlled Substances Act. It will reinvest money into Black and brown communities that have been the hardest hit on the war on drugs. It will create safe banking regulations, and it will have the ability to expunge marijuana crimes off of people's records. So all in all, waiting to see what the final version of this bill looks like. But the fact that it has movement in the United States Senate where no anti-prohibition bill has ever had before is a positive step in the right direction.
Now, does this bill preempt state law, or does that allow states to preempt the federal law?
So essentially what this bill does is add essentially a national structure, but the states themselves will still have the ability to be the laboratories of the democracy that they've been for the past several years.
The meth lab of democracy is what we usually talk about state law as a concern. Because once again, here we are in the state of Florida. We got a law. We worked so hard for the rules, and now we're working to see just how much we can screw it up. I was going to say fuck it up, but this is FDA thing.
No, you can say fuck.
Can I?
Yeah, you can say fuck.
Oh, we have a guest star today, by the way. This is the new puppy.
This is Tony. Say hi
Tony.
to the camera. Tony's tired, but Tony doesn't like THC caps, and he loves blunts. And I happen to be rolling a blunt right now.
Why are you rolling a blunt? I mean, he's like trying to get in practice or something.
Well, I'm a little off because I'm not going to be able to be a judge, like a contestant in the best of the Bay blunt rolling contest.
The best of the blunt rolling contest. What is that, Bob?
Best of the Bay blunt rolling contest.
Best of the Bay blunt.
No, Tony is actually a Labrador, Pete. But so we're holding a blunt rolling contest, Gary, and because I'm a board member, I have to be a judge. And quite honestly, I don't think that's fair because I am the best blunt roller in Florida. And this is proven time and time again. You know how many blunts I've smoked and rolled?
And what's more, you're a bad
Florida?
Judge of character. So I don't know how good you'd be a judge.
What do you mean? I'm a great judge of character. What are you talking about?
You let us hang around with you.
So here. So we're holding this blunt rolling contest on April 16th here at Chillum, and I'm gonna roll a blunt on air because I want to show you guys how good I am at rolling blunts.
And what kind of leaf are you using for this blunt?
Banana hempwood, right there.
Oh,
yeah.
It's not your average rice paper.
No, it's not rice paper. It's made of hemp, Afghan hemp.
Fantastic.
And it tastes like bananas.
And speaking of hemp, there was a bill that we kind of overlooked that came through earlier this year. My fault in part because usually what I do is I scan all the bills for the words marijuana and cannabis, and I come up with a list of all the bills we have to look at. This one didn't have either of those words in it. What it had was Delta-8 tetracannabinol.
Well, that's actually what I'm rolling in the blunt here. I'm rolling some Bubba Kush Delta-8 flower, 25% Delta-8 content.
Oh, fantastic.
10% CBD.
And this particular bill actually put constraints on Delta-8 to make certain that nobody under the age of 21 buys it in the stores. Well, of course, if you're buying it from a reputable CBD store, kind of like Chillum over here in Ybor City, where the home of where it all started, you will generally have to be 21 to buy anything anyway.
Well, actually, we're 18 and up here at Chillum. But I mean, we've actually been 21 and up before when they did that, like that vapor thing, the 21 up thing for the vapor. We just went ahead and went 21 and up. What's weird about the bill is selling it out of state. I guarantee. Actually, so let me be frank with everybody that's watching right now. I have not actually read the bill. I read a synopsis, and I hardly understood that. So that's why I got guys like Kano and Gary with me, because they help me like figure that type of shit out. But you have to. Apparently, we can't sell it out of state. Something like that. Like we can't. On my website, I sell Delta 8 flower. I sent an ounce of Delta 8 flower to Pittsburgh the other day, and apparently, I won't be able to do that anymore.
So here's the thing. I mean, Delta 8 products are being produced all over the country, but what they're preventing is people from Florida to ship it to other states who are selling it from Florida, and yet people in Colorado can buy it in Colorado anyway. So this is actually cutting off one of your income streams for no basic reason, because it is available anywhere.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know why they would want to do that.
I mean, I understand when you have.
I get the 21 and up thing. It gets people high. Like it's actually a liability in a lot of ways. You know, I can understand why you would want to do it to 21 and up. I personally wouldn't want to sell Delta 8 to somebody that's 18 and younger. Because there's a lot of liability behind that. What if a 15-year-old, 16-year-old comes and does a dab here at the store, and then gets falls or passes out or has some sort of like heart condition or something like that, and then I would end up being liable for that. So I mean, I get the 21 and up thing, you know, but the selling it out of state, why?
Well, actually, the bill so far has been TP'd in its first committee. So usually that
toilet paper?
No, temporarily postponed.
Oh,
that means that they didn't want to put take it to a vote, and that oftentimes means the death for a bill. Okay. Although sometimes it's just a matter of getting through one particular legality, but you'd have to have it agended in the same committee another time. And these committees are jam-packed in their agendas to be able to get all the bills in from beginning to end. So we're getting to the point at the session right now. If it hasn't gotten into the first committee of that particular bill, chances are it's not going to get all the way through, because it has to hit all the committees. If you don't get all the committees, it never gets to the floor. And that's where we stand. Now, people have been asking us about the caps. I don't know. Should we talk about caps? Because we
kind of have to.
This is like the last 4 weeks in a row we've been talking about caps, and it hasn't gotten any better.
Okay, here's what I heard about the caps.
Okay, what did you hear?
Here's what I heard about the caps.
Then I'll tell you if you're wrong or not.
You tell me if I'm wrong or not.
All
right. So
I'm guessing you're wrong.
It's gonna pass. It's gonna pass the House. It's gonna do it. I mean, at this point, I believe that there's some sort of conspiracy in the Florida House to get some sort of THC cap going. Now, here's the thing. This conspiracy hasn't infiltrated the Senate, and it won't even make it to the Senate floor, because Brandis is like the head of the first committee, and all he has to do is just not schedule the bill in order. I think one of you guys told me this, so I got to be right. But I think it was Kano, now that I'm thinking about it. I took 100 milligrams of RSO before the show, and it's kicking in right now. But anyways,
I noticed you're far more lucid than you usually are.
So the Senate's not even going to hear it. It's going to die in the Senate, and it just so happens that history repeats itself. I think this is what happened last year.
Well, last year it actually it was killed on the floor.
It was killed on the House floor.
And the year before, it was killed at the very last day of the
Senate floor.
The Senate floor, right?
Okay.
Because they sent it back to the House with an amendment on it. The House said, we want to keep it the way it is. And the Senate said no. And so it died right there. And that essentially was kind of the way it happened the year before as well. And the question is, you say it's a conspiracy of some kind to get this bill through on the House. Why do you think there's a conspiracy?
Why would anybody want to cap THC?
See, that's the point. And because
I know.
What
by all means, Chris.
What real good reason do they have to want to cap THC? Is there like a real good reason?
Yeah. To understand it, you have to take a second and put yourself in State Representative Spencer Roach's body. And then
ouch, it doesn't fit very well.
Yeah, and then you look around and you see these checks coming in from private prisons, from the alcohol and tobacco lobby, and then all of a sudden you see these donations from the Drug Free Florida and Drug Free America Foundation, and you think, you know what? I should write and sponsor this bill for THC caps, which these campaign donors want to see happen. And that's it. Then you'll be able to understand why anybody would want to do that. The fact is that the money in politics is part of the problem as to why we have illegal cannabis in the first place for the past 80 some years in this country, and is going to continue to be the forefront and fight for people's rights moving forward in the 21st century. The money in politics is the problem, and that is why we as an organization often have to be vigilant, and we will do our best. I mean, Gary and myself, we're just two guys. We need each and every one of you to be vigilant and informed citizens. We will do our best to present the information to help you make informed voting decisions, but the fact of the matter is that it is big money in politics pushing these state representatives to push for this arbitrary caps bill.
So I was fucking right here, Gary.
Essentially, but not 100%.
Where was I wrong?
Well, okay. First off, there's a couple of cute little rules that can possibly skip every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't what they call suspend the rules and allow a bill to leapfrog its first committee, and that has to be done at the upper level of leadership, because they have to. You have to get 60% approval to go ahead and suspend the rules on that. Is that correct?
Also, if the bill has done at least one committee stop, the Speaker of the House, President of the Senate can essentially get it out of the, take it off, off the other committees too. So the Speaker of the House, President of the Senate have vast power when it comes to the parliamentary process. So if Chris Browns is not on our team, obviously it's gonna keep going. And then Gary, who's the current president of the Senate? It escapes me off the top of my head.
Wilton Simpson.
That's right. Yep. And if he's really, I would say between him and Jeff Brandes, all eyes would be on them next, because this is moving in the House.
For those who don't know, Wilton Simpson is a egg farmer entrepreneur. You ever heard of Eggland's Best? That was his family company, which he moved on to another company after that. And they had a huge fire. It burnt 100,000 hens died, something like that. But yeah, he's an egg farmer. He's an agriculturalist, and he's supposed to understand agriculture and all that it's all about. The question is he all about the agriculture that we are dealing with right now in regards to cannabis is concerned?
Maybe he should feed his chickens hemp feed, and we'll see how much better they sell.
I would think that those eggs would probably end up going on the black market for at least about $40 a dozen, something like that. Because the nature of the way that we price things that have to do with cannabis here in the state of Florida.
Like, yo, I got these eggs, yo. I got the finest eggs in Florida, B.
Can you get one of those dozen things in the pocket of your coat and say, I got me a dozen of the best ones.
It's like I got 6 for $50. I got a dozen for 90.
I think here's something we need to discuss real quickly, and that is that first off, the good folks over at Florida for Care, the same ones who gave us that petition after the first committee, they brought on 30,000 signatures, and or 12,000 signatures, took up to the Tallahassee, gave them to leadership. Leadership said, thank you very much. And as they left, I bet you anything that huge stack of petitions went straight into the circular file. Because that's the way things happen sometimes if they don't really want to listen to you.
By circular file, do you mean the recycle bin, Gary?
That's right. The recycle bin, and the recycles were picked up that day. So they really didn't have a chance to read them in time, most likely, to see what those petitions actually said. But I thought it was a good idea that they get a poll going, because polls don't just show you how many people are interested in signing signatures. They give you the pulse of the range of people who are in your constituency. So basically where everybody stands, as opposed to just those people who are so active and they're willing to sign petitions. Okay. The studio is coming down bit by bit.
It always happens when Bill Short comes around. Something just breaks.
But this is the poll itself. that Ben Polera and folks they commissioned from the Public Policy Polling Organization didn't go with the Fabrizios. They went with the PPP, which is usually sometimes more on the liberal leaning, I would suppose. But it was a very good, very authentic survey. And I think one of the interesting things is that when it came to the demographics, they interviewed 590 Floridians, and it's interesting for those of you who are not into polls per se in the sciences of it. It's always a bias in regards to how you pick your sample, and it also has to do with who actually answers a survey. Usually, nice people answer surveys. Angry people hang up on you. And so therefore you have a different type of person who actually fills out these surveys. But they gave it people a chance to either do it online on a landline by putting in numbers, or they can do it as a text. And so people, the people who would not be as nice every once in a while would still go ahead and get involved in this survey. And out of 590 people, only 6% were actually patients, and the other 94% were non-patients. And that's critical, because all those petitions would most likely came from folks who were patients. This gives you an overview of what the constituency looks like. And very interestingly enough, everybody here probably knows that Amendment 2 passed by 71.3% of the vote. What people don't know is that in this particular survey, when they asked them, do you approve of the medical cannabis program in Florida, it went up to 76%. So it continues to grow even among the people who are not patients, which is really important for them to know that in Tallahassee, if you're out there messing with the current medical cannabis program, you're not doing the work of what your constituents are asking you to do. I mean, there's not a single candidate out there that won by 70% of the vote, even in extremely red districts or extremely blue districts where everything was totally skewed. Usually you don't get anything less, any more than 60%. Spencer Roche, as a matter of fact, in his district, actually won on his second election by 60%. The first election, I think, was by 51%. But in both cases, he could have easily been beat by the Amendment 2 bill, because the first time it got 58%, and the second time it got 71%. And so what that means basically is that when somebody like Spencer Roche actually puts together a bill, and yet when he's asked, how many people have called you to ask you to go ahead and put this cap in, and he has to answer truthfully, and he says none, then what is the deal? Why is this being perpetrated on the cannabis program right now, where it'll affect patients so grievously, and yet none of their constituents are asking for it? So who do you think is asking for it, Chris?
His campaign donors, plain and simple. As I said before, when you take money from the private prisons, their bottom line is affected by less people being arrested and sentenced for cannabis. And so legal cannabis, affects the bottom line for these private prisons, which is why we have seen private prisons expand into immigration detention centers. Because if you can't over criminalize the population, you got to look for another group to target. And so it's interesting how Geo Group is shifting resources to its immigration detention centers rather than its private prisons in many ways. But all in all, the private prison industry has skyrocketed in the last 20 years, and understanding that over the last 20 years, it coincides with a lot of the criminal justice policies that we saw coming out of the Clinton administration. We see these things like the 3 strikes laws. We see, all this, all these gang violence acts and such. And so the war on drugs was given a lot of tools by the Clinton administration and by the policies passed under those Congresses. And we have seen it carried out time and time again, which is highly upsetting when you think about Clinton, Bush, Obama, all cannabis users. The current vice president probably smoked a lot of reefer in her time at Howard University in Washington, D.C. And then to see the hypocritical policy of our federal government and many of these presidents saying there's nothing that they can do about it. The president can do a lot. The president can write an executive order and say that, Schedule 1 scheduling of cannabis is wrong. It shouldn't be in the Schedule 1. But we see no president with the political will or courage to do that. They often want to put it off on Congress. Well, luckily, Congress has changed its makeup over the last several years, and you actually have a Congress where the House is willing to pass the MORE Act. You see, the Senate now working on federal legalization. So there's a lot to be said about, Congress and the way it's going. And that all goes back to elections matter, talking to your, members of Congress matter. I recall 2 years ago, prior to the lockdown, going to, the halls of Congress here in D.C., meeting with, Representative Kathy Castor's staff from Tampa, meeting with Representative Charlie Crist's staff from Pinellas, and telling them, look, you all need to get on board on this. This needs to be something that happens here in the people's house. Legalization is something that Congress, has to do. I mean, Congress made it illegal. Congress needs to repeal the prohibition.
Did you by any chance go to Debbie Wasserman Schultz's office?
No, I did not. Her and I are not on speaking terms ever since when she was DNC chair. She came out against Amendment 2, and I was definitely on the same line that John Morgan was at the time. There's no way.
You're definitely a liberal, but you speak out against injustice. You don't sell out for the party.
I have been told by many party leaders in particular, some in the Florida Senate, some in the Florida House, some are mayors and such, that if I didn't call people out so often, I'd advance more in the party and politically. And to that, I say, suck it. Okay. The fact is that if we can't hold our own parties accountable, if we can't be transparent in what we're doing, if we can't tell the truth, then there is no reason why anybody should be in office trying to represent any people.
Hey, so I rolled the blunt, and so it may not be my best blunt, but here's the thing.
This is an RSO skewed blunt. Is that what it is?
I roll better blunts. It's just I'm a true pothead, and I use raw papers. Which there's a shortage of raw papers right now.
Is it because of because of the hemp?
Yeah, there was an earthquake in Spain. I think it's called Alcoy, Spain.
Yes,
it destroyed a hemp paper mill, and it was the mill that Raw uses to get the paper. I think specifically for their cones, because right now there's like no cones anywhere.
Also, what else there isn't very much of? Hemp paper companies in the United States. I mean, basically, they have a minimum amount of hemp paper companies, and what are they producing? Cigarette papers, essentially. And then, of course, there's people who make the handmade papers, which are anywhere between $5 and $10 a sheet, which doesn't quite make it affordable as a paper stuff. But we need to get some paper plant, hopefully in Florida, someplace in the country, that takes on hemp stalks as their feedstock. Because we know that from old studies before, it is a much more sustainable and much less expensive and a much more durable paper.
Hold on. I agree with you, Gary, but I got a question. Do you want to smoke this blunt?
If you insist.
Okay, so I told Liz that I'd leave it up to her.
I actually feel emboldened because I actually got my vaccination this week.
She thinks I'm like trying to trick her, so we're just gonna go ahead and smoke the blunt. But you have to judge it. You have to be a judge. Like, this is my blunt rolling contest, guys.
If I were,
it's not a good blunt. I'm going to fail. Well, I know that.
If I were the judge and I saw that blunt,
look, it's short and fat, but that's my blunt. I didn't weigh out how much I put in there or anything like that, but we'll light it.
Well, the question is,
light it?
It's not a skinny one. It's almost kind of a fatty, isn't it?
It is a fatty.
Will it's
a shorty.
Will the Delta 8 THC levels in here cause me to have first time psychosis? Because I've got an afternoon thing I got to go to.
You already have psychosis. Don't blame it on the Delta 8, Gary. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry, puppy.
Well, the question is this my dosage though? Because according to Spencer Roach, if we don't write down what the dosage levels are, no one will know if you overdose or not. we have to have 10% in, so that if it's over 10%, we'll say, "Oh, look, he overdosed," because there's dosage limits in there, and that's where.
It's 25%, so we're going to overdose twice.
Well, in that note, I actually taught a webinar earlier this week on glaucoma and medical marijuana, and that subject of overdosing was something that we had to cover in it. The fact is that the reason there are no cannabis overdoses, right? The term overdosing itself.
You're gonna smoke it with your hand like that?
Well, this is how.
That's how you.
This is the age of COVID, guys.
Days of COVID.
In the days of COVID, you don't put it in your mouth.
I'm gonna put it in my mouth.
Well, then I may have to just wipe off my hands with every single pull. But the fact is, if you do it between the index finger here and the middle finger,
well, now
do the fist thing. Number one, because you can use your hand like a carburetor.
Now I'm going to get your hands on my mouth.
I sanitized myself before I got here because I had to get it off the cheese stuff off my steering wheel.
Oh, Jesus! There's cheese on your steering wheel.
No, just the dust. The dust. And I didn't want to get that all over my black suit, because orange dust on a blue suit, that doesn't work.
Hey. Carlos, have you seen those rings that you can use? They kind of like are a mouthpiece for your own blunt. You can put the blunt in the ring and smoke it.
Hey, the puppy was like passed out, and I had to wake him up. I don't know. What was that?
Have you seen those rings?
We'll see if the sucker canoes or not.
You can wear those rings, and you can put your blunt in them and smoke, so you don't have to touch people's blunts.
I'm sure we got like some sort of like sanitary thing here for that.
No,
I have seen those rings. Those rings are pretty cool.
I just want you to know
that
we
don't have those.
If I were judge and I saw that blunt, I'd ask you a 3-word question. Are you high?
You get me. You get me, Gary.
It's just a kind of. This is why you should roll your stuff before you smoke. That way they don't look kind of like bizarre versions of the Statue of Liberty instead of looking like a blunt. You never know.
Oh shit.
Well, Gary, I'm glad you bring that up. In the best blunt in the Bay competition, this is going to be a blunt rolling Olympiad, if you will. Okay, there is going to be multiple events.
Who gets to light the torch?
We're still in the process of working out the details for the opening ceremonies. Okay. However, each event is going to have the ability where you're going to roll different types of paper in each event. So, first event, we'll have folks rolling up, standard hemp wrap, just like Carlos did. The second event, we'll have folks rolling with papers. And in the third event, you'll have to roll with an actual leaf. And then, in the grand finale, it'll be the top 3 folks with the highest scores advancing to the grand finale, and that'll be a freestyle event in which creativity is definitely going to be welcome. If you can roll the Statue of Liberty into a joint or a blunt, we want to see it. If you can roll a TIE fighter or an X-Wing with your blunt, we want to see it. So I'm very excited to see who makes it to the grand finale and all this. And in the event of a tie in the grand finale, we will have a sudden death speed round. And then we're going to clock everybody individually, and we'll take points off for an ugly blunt or a bad burn and such. But all in all, I'm really excited for all these different events for the best blunt in the Bay competition.
We're gonna smoke all these blunts?
Well, yes, not all of it. I mean, a wine judge does not drink the entire bottle.
So we're just gonna hit once off of each blunt.
No, we're not going to share them. The contestants need to roll 1 blunt for each judge. So I'm pretty excited.
1 blunt for each judge? They're going to roll like 1,000 blunts.
No, they're not. We're not going to have 1,000 judges.
Well, you know what I mean.
We're not going to have 1,000 judges.
We can't. What if we get like because we're selling tickets to be a judge on the website. So what if 50 people sign up to be judges?
Well, I want to see if those 50 blunts roll. What's up? Let me see.
It is quite an honor to be the judge.
Can I see the consistency? That's going to be interesting too. Is consistency because everybody can get
points off for canoeing. Correct?
I skipped you, Gary.
Yes. You will have penalty points for canoeing. There will be penalty points for rolling blunts that look like toothpicks.
I was already starting to canoe. You see that?
Yeah. All right. So maybe I'm not the best blunt roller.
No, you are. You're just off your game right now because you're off your game.
I'm the best joint roller.
There you go. This is puff pass.
If we need to have a joint rolling contest too.
Well, the thing is, we are trying to get together an event, not only just to see who's the best blunt roller in the in the Bay Area, because we do want to know and we do want you to participate. But we also want people to come over and see what Suncoast Normal is all about. So we're going to have that backyard vibe. We're going to have that camaraderie, and we're going to talk eventually about politics every once in a while.
We're going to be educating people.
We're going to be educating those people who are already members. They get in for free. Those who are not, they can become members, where they get their fantastic pin and they get their fantastic Suncoast Normal mask that they can rip off at will at parties and things of that sort. And you get to be a part of the change. We are still working hard to get everything fixed here in the state of Florida, because the 2016 law that they started the law in 2017, they screwed it up so badly that they promised us that they would be making the changes for the best. And all we've gotten since that time is just smokable flower and eventually edibles, which was already in the first law anyway. As far as changing the law, the rules itself, the laws itself, as far as public use, you still can't smoke anywhere else but your house. And again, you have to own that property, because your landlord could kick you out. Because if he doesn't want you to smoke in his property, then that's gone. And without public use, we don't have that. We need to have things like, for instance, consumption lounges where you can go outside of your home.
Shit, I skipped you again, Gary. Bye bye.
I'm talking. That's okay.
Yeah,
I'm handling it.
So hey, okay. What do you guys rate my blunt at?
On a scale of 1 to 5?
Yeah.
Can I use fractions?
You gotta be such a dick sometimes, man. Come on, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, out of 5, I would give it a 2.5.
2.5. All right, Liv. 2.5.
The pack was kind of loose.
Ah. Yeah, I got the Scooby snacks as well.
Okay, I'm passing this back on to you so I can finish talking. Okay, we have to discuss just a little bit about the blunt rolling contest, but we also have to discuss what fell down. One of those kind of days.
Lighter.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna put this.
The fact that we still have legislation going through we don't want to go through, and we have a lot of legislation we do want to go through that's being held up. Most of the bills that we wrote are still being either held as a possible amendment, but we need to have a cannabis bill that moves forward so that we can go ahead and attach it to. And as of right now, the only bill that's gone forward so far is this cat bill in the House. Although we did get the expungement bill that passed through its first committee on the Senate, but nothing on the House side yet.
So what are we looking at right now? The THC bill, THC cap bill has got through 2 committees in the House. It has 1 more committee in the House.
HHS, yes.
Yeah, the expungement bill has made it through 1 committee stop in the Senate. It has 2 more committee stops in the Senate. But that's it. That's all that's moving. Our employee protection bill is stalled. Ray Rodriguez is not going to give it a hearing in the Senate. And so that's very, very concerning. That people are still losing their jobs out here. Just this week, announcement came that 14 people were, let go from the White House, as a matter of fact, for their own cannabis use.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up.
Yeah,
too.
I heard about that. What the hell?
Yeah,
it's a matter of security clearance. If you're working in the White House, you have to have a level of security clearance. And they're saying that with the current rules and regulations, which they were actually talking about overlooking this particular administration, but overlooking is not the same thing as getting rid of the rule. Because if the rule is still there, they can enforce it at any time. And what they did is that at this point in time, they wanted to make certain that they were not jumping over any hurdles to give people security clearance who didn't deserve it. Kind of like Jared.
I in this thing, I have a unique understanding because I was in the military. I understand security clearance well. The concern is that there is no legal infrastructure in the DC area. There are no legal dispensaries in DC. There are currently no legal adult use dispensaries in Maryland or Virginia. Virginia recently signed into law, but it's going to be 2024 before we see that. And then Washington D.C. they have they're working on an ordinance right now for retail facilities, but again that's still a long ways off. Here's the thing, the fact is that the United States government is not going to trust anyone with top secret clearance who has to go to a black market dealer. You know, if you have to associate with any type of criminality, if you have to associate with anyone who could be a security risk in themselves, they're not going to give it to you. So my heart goes out to these folks because it feels like they got bait and switched when they applied, you know, especially it's younger staffers that are being affected. But the fact is, when it comes to top secret clearance, the government doesn't play. I mean, even getting divorced can put your top secret clearance at risk. So there are tons of other things other than cannabis use that can disqualify someone from top secret clearance. But it is sad that this is it. I'm hoping that once we get the federal law passed and cannabis is no longer a scheduled substance, these staffers will have the ability to come back, get their jobs back. And again, I think that even at the federal level, employment protections are vital. No person in America should be precluded from a job or losing their job for cannabis use. Now, we do have exceptions where, you know, maybe you should not get loaded up on 100 milligrams of RSO before you get behind a school bus or a fire truck. Those are type of things that make sense. You know, but again,
loaded up on 100 milligrams of RSO, you think you're on a magic school bus.
Exactly. You know, but the guy who works at a call center for DirecTV, or the guy who works, who's a mechanic who, you know, after a long day comes home, his joints hurt and he needs to fire up. I don't see any reason why those folks should be losing their jobs. And that is where we're at right now in this country, is that the advancement in the public policy is moving faster than all the other things that can keep up to with it. So as legalization moves forward, our organization has a place. People often ask, oh, well, why does Normal even have a place? Why are y'all still fighting? You know, you got it legal. And it was like, no. There are tons of messed up public policy. There are conflicts. You know, Gary, you touched on it in helping draft a patient's bill of rights. People are getting kicked out of their housing for being medical marijuana patients. People have recently called me in the last 24 hours saying that they haven't been able to buy firearms for being medical marijuana patients. And so there's a lot of concern right now over people's rights in this country being trampled on for something that is a legally constitutional right in the state of Florida. And that is major concern for us.
Now, a couple people were saying it is legal in DC, and yes, it is legal, but it's in that category of legal, but. For instance, in Michigan, it was legal at one point in time, but dispensaries were not legal. So therefore, it was legal to possess, but you had to buy it from someplace other than a dispensary. And if you bought it from the black market, it was illegal. So therefore, it was kind of like a catch-22 kind of situation.
Yeah, what is
but
it?
They actually have done some interesting things in DC to get around their particular legal but situation. Right, Chris?
Yeah, I got these stickers, yo.
Yeah,
you gotta buy stickers, and
you gotta buy stickers.
Yeah,
you gotta buy stickers. I got a stack of stickers.
You got the coolest stickers, yo.
See, the way they work it is you go into one of these stores, which is not a dispensary because they're not legal, and you buy a sticker, and with that sticker, you get a gift with purchase of an eighth.
Yeah. Or you know
why these stickers happen to cost like $20 or $30.
No, stickers can range anywhere between 30 to 60, depending if you want a top shelf sticker, you know, or
nice ones, yeah,
you know, so some really, really nice ones. And you know, what I really think is a positive of the current gray market. It's not a black market. It's not in the sunshine. But the fact is that it is really sparking entrepreneurship. I mean, guys are going out of their way to create brands. Here's one brand in particular here in the DC area, and so you know they're branding their own lighters. They got their own stickers. You know, so there are a lot of brands that entrepreneurs in the cannabis market, you know, here in the DC area that you're seeing, guys are going out of their way to the market often regulates itself. If you're someone who has a brand and you have overpriced, medicine, people are not going to go to you. But if you build a good brand, you provide great customer service. You got branding. I love the fact, every time I get over $100 worth of stickers, I can get a cool lighter. All kind of neat little things. Mm-hmm. Case in point, I think that the current market in DC has allowed entrepreneurship to thrive. What my concern is that as we transition to a fully legal market, those entrepreneurs that have thrived in the legacy markets in Florida, in the gray market here in DC? Will they have access to entry into these legal businesses? And if the answer is no, then the legalization bill is not right. It needs to be fixed because, small mom and pop entrepreneurs, people who have been doing this in the shadows for years, you should have the opportunity to be legit and do it out in the open.
We talk about baby steps here in Florida because everything we do in Florida, we can't do it in one fell swoop. We've always got to, take a giant leap and then take a giant leap backwards and take a small leap forward. It's exactly how we got this whole thing with CBD only at the very beginning. We wanted to start the market, but we had to dial it back down to just CBD only. Then we wanted to open it up to everybody, but we dialed it back to just people who were terminal. If they wanted to get possible anything with THC in it. And that's the way we've always done things. We started out with this employee bill, and they asked us to dial it back to just federal employees, just to make certain that it passed, and then we can go ahead and amend it in the future to get it to cover as many people as we want to. That's kind of like the crazy way that the sausage is built every once in a while. And that's basically what we had to take care of as far as that's concerned. Now, as far as Florida is concerned, I think what we need to do before we get to full responsible adult use, which I think we should start using that phrase instead of recreational, because they use the same word recreational for opium. But I digress on purpose. But the whole idea is that we ever want to get to a responsible adult use market, I think we need to get those horizontals in there first. We need to open the market before we go to recreational. Because right now we have dispensary licenses that are just sitting there, and they're sitting on them, and they're not doing anything with them because they're waiting for adult use market to come up because they know it's going to double the amount of sales they're making right now. Yeah. But this is the time, guys, to build a brand. And I'm sorry, I've seen a lot of different sales out there lately. 20% off of this, 40% off of that, 35% off of that. These are all great discounts, but they don't build brand loyalty. Because if it comes down to the fact, I'll buy it for 35% off because I only like it about 35% of the time anyway. But you're not building brand loyalty just by lowering the prices, especially when you're in a market right now where they know damn well that after that sale is off, that gram of concentrate is still going to cost $88.
Well, let's take a second.
Someplace else.
Let's take a second to unpack the different brands that we're seeing in Florida because
even the best rosin.
Yeah, well, we see Jimmy Buffett, a celebrity's brand. He's with Soterra. Carlos, you're a medical patient. Gary, you're a medical patient there. What do you think of the coral reefer strains and products?
I've never heard of a coconut terpene, to be honest with you. So when they say that it has these flavors of coconut, I'm saying, where did you get it from?
My pina colada vape.
Well, they got it from food grade terpenes that they threw in there that weren't actually in the cannabis plant anywhere. So therefore, they're creating their own entourage effect out of nothing.
I think it's a byproduct of all this like copywriting that's going on in the cannabis industry. Like Gorilla Glue is copyrighted, so you got to sell something.
No, you got to call it GG now.
But I don't get why why we have to like completely rename things. Like he calls that shit like Midnight Tidal Wave or some shit like that.
Midnight Hurricane
in Paradise. I don't want to go to a Jimmy Buffett concert to smoke my weed. My vape.
Jimmy Buffett concerts are usually like at the Amalie or Amway arenas, so you can't even smoke weed in there.
Yeah, well, and I mean, like, I don't get like Fluent does it too. Like Fluent renames their strains. Like OG Kush is like Ophora or something like that. Some weird Greek name that's like it sounds like euphoria, but doesn't doesn't sound exactly like it. And I don't want to buy my weed like that. And then you asked for my I ranted about that, but you asked for my review about Jimmy Buffett. You asked for my review about Jimmy Buffett's stuff, and honestly, doesn't even taste that good. Doesn't even have the right terpenes. Coconut is not a terpene.
There you go.
Colada is not a terpene.
Watermelon is not a terpene. Generally, fruits are not terpenes, with the exception of the citrus fruits.
This vanilla latte vape.
vanilla latte.
I would go for a Café con Leche vape. I'm just saying, although the Café con Leche Cigar City Stout is wonderful, but you can only get that at a certain time of the year.
Hey, I would love a Café con Leche Canagar. If one of these, can produce that, I'd buy that, right? I'd buy that for $1.
Is there going to be a Canagar category, by the way, for the blunt rolling contest?
No.
Takes too much.
We'll be selling, Chillin' will be selling Canagars, but that'll be about it. D8 Canagars. They're expensive, though. It's $120 for a 15-gram Canagar.
Woo!
But
yeah. Yeah.
Getting back to what I was saying before, I do think that we are going to have to get an answer on Flora Grown. And I think we're going to get it fairly soon, and maybe towards the end of this particular session. But I think that would be the way that they would probably do it, because you have to have rules approved. Otherwise, unless they have emergency rulemaking thing. So if they approve something like that at the end of session, then it's going to be a lot longer before we can actually get it in place, because of the fact that they have to have rules to go with the new legislation. And if legislation's already out for the year, they can't get the rules approved unless they have emergency rule authority, which they might give it, they might not. But we'll wait and see. But the thing is, we have to have that before we have. Yeah, absolutely. Jack Hare is one of the best ones out there.
Yeah, for real. That's what I'm saying. Like maybe I think his wife actually probably has Jack Herrera copyrighted.
I think his son does.
Or maybe, yeah.
Well, if it's being copyrighted, I can tell you that the market up here in DC does not care about paying royalties, because Jack Herrera is widely available as a strain, both in a cart and in flower.
You can't imagine what that guy stood for there to be very litigious,
Yeah. In grand scheme of things, if people are suing over Jack Herrera's name, it's that's not Jack Herrera. Jack wanted to see an open market. I mean, the emperor wears no clothes was vital to even my own research in my to get my master's degree from University of South Florida. Yeah. So I can tell you that that man did a lot of research between him, between the Schaefer Commission, and these gentlemen's wives really did preserve the research that they did for future generations. And it is coming to fruition now in the public policy experts that we're seeing now coming up that are, anti-prohibition, that are pro-cannabis. And so I'm very excited to be able to, go head to head with some of these scientists who, are from the Reagan days, that are saying, that are part of the Just Say No crowd, that have nothing else. That's all they got. It's just say no. It's bad. That's the only thing they can come up with. Oh, this is bad. It's not. It's not. And as these generational differences in politics begin to change, we see the public policy change. And the sad part is there's a lot of baby boomers out there. Many of them watch this show right now who are on our team, but the politicians from their generation aren't. And there's a lot to be said of the culture wars, if you will, that we see in this country. And so, oftentimes there's this big whole thing right now about cancel culture. Half the things we say on this show could probably get us canceled, but this is our own platform. We believe in freedom of speech. And the fact is that what we want to see canceled, if you want to see real cancel culture, I want to see prohibition canceled. I want to see corruption in politics canceled. Hell, I want to see
cancel.
Yeah,
I am the judge of the blunt rolling contest.
That would be a very positive cancel, I think.
So we have more in this country in common that unites us than divides us. The fact that you can get Trump Republicans, smoking weed with Bernie Sanders supporters, the key uniter and all that is the cannabis. And I think that's something that probably is from a public policy point of view. You don't want people united. We have this issue right now. We saw the polling numbers. 76% of Floridians are in favor of a medical cannabis system. Cannabis is a uniting issue in this country, and that is why it is being attacked so hard. Because if you got an issue that can get people united politically, then once they start talking among one another and their differences come down, then there's other issues we can start collaborating on. And I think that is probably the biggest threat that cannabis poses and has always posed to the status quo in America.
Yeah, and the guys in the legislature, they know how to distract us. I mean, this cap thing is a major, major distraction for anything else we've been trying to put through this year. All the energy seems to have been sucked out of the room and straight towards that damn cap bill. And yet it's a cap bill that very few of the voters actually wanted in the first place. And even you compare it county by county. I can tell you for a fact, again, one of the questions on the poll was that, are you in favor of a cap? And then again, this was for 94% non-patients and 6% patients, and equals amount of Republicans, Democrats, independents, and even amongst the conservative to liberal scale, it was spread across. It still said only 24% actually supported the idea of a cap, which is far less than the amount of people that are using it. 58% opposed and 18% uncertain. But that just goes to show you the people out there who vote are not asking for this, and yet these guys are pushing themselves to get it done. Almost exclusively on party lines, we had one person from the Republican Party actually vote against 1455 this last week at its last session. So it's not 100%, of course, but the fact is it's still mostly under party lines. And when we start seeing something that blatant, that we know that it is special interest that is governing the policy as opposed to the will of the people, we have to scrutinize our politicians who do that.
Yeah. So, that's exactly right, Gary. This THC cap is not about any type of party ideology. It's not about the free market. It's not about personal liberty. It's not even about public safety. And the fact that they're trying to make it to be about any of those things just goes to show how out of touch these politicians are that are pushing this with the vast majority of even their own party's base. Because I'm seeing, plenty of libertarians, Republicans, conservatives, all chiming in on this, saying no to the caps. I'm fed up with the how the establishment is anti-cannabis, and that's true. I mean, Carlos, you made a comment earlier about me calling out the former DNC chair over it. We need everyone of every political persuasion willing to hold their own party leaders accountable, and that's how we can actually meet in the middle somewhere.
Here's how I see it. We have two choices here. All right. Either we vote, right, and we get rid of everybody who is in favor of this THC cap, we vote them out of office, right? Or Suncoast Normal instills a revolution and we take over the Florida government and we instill a utopian council instead of the Florida House.
I don't know. We don't have enough red hats
based on Plato's Republic.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't recommend it.
Revolution, guys.
Carlos, I worked in that Capitol building. That Capitol building is much harder to seize than the U.S. Capitol. Yeah, it is like 20 floors.
Trump put a coup d'etat on the Capitol, on the nation's capital.
Yeah, but that nation's capital isn't 22 stories, bro.
In the Florida House.
No,
who's with me, guys?
I don't.
The thing with the celery and the carrots and the ranch dressing.
That's crudette.
Carlos is talking about instituting.
I will smoke another blunt. And I will be mayor, and you'll make me mayor, Steve Edmonds.
Yeah, Carlos, I don't think I can run up the steps to the Capitol in order to actually instill any type of insurrection or revolution. So,
all right. So third option, I become mayor of Tampa and I legalize weed in Tampa.
And then you fire all the corrupt cops that are willing to enforce prohibition.
All of the fucking cops. All of the cops. Except for one that I really like.
Except for the one that I really like.
And it's Officer Kane. He's
Shout out,
Kane. I got you.
That's too funny.
So the rest are done.
We're going to keep an eye on our cap. It's got one more committee to go. That committee has not yet been scheduled, but it can happen anytime. The last committee it came to was they gave us only a 2-day notification, and that was to make it hard for advocates to run over there and say their piece. Although when you've got public opinion, public testimony, which is only no more than 40 seconds to a minute, it's kind of hard to get your point across, especially when the vote is already been decided in the back room before they even came out to the committee. which
I
happens
don't
from
know,
time to time.
Gary, I don't know how to tactfully tell an elected official they're a piece of shit in 40 seconds without just saying you're a piece of shit, for sponsoring this bill. So, yeah, you're right. It's very difficult to give public testimony in 40 seconds.
Well, I think this should be like a segment on our next show where we call everybody a piece of shit that is affiliated with the THC cap.
I have taken classes on how to do an elevator speech, and not one of them says use the word shit a lot.
Well, we do think that's why we're a podcast now.
we couldn't say these things over the radio. We had FCC guidelines.
For all you guys who are watching this now, and we will keep the comment section open so you can see the comments afterwards on Facebook and stuff. We want to know from you, if you had 10 seconds to talk to a legislator and change his mind about caps, what would you say? And you only have 10 seconds. Do your elevator speech, which is usually about between 10 to 15 seconds, correct?
Well, I would say probably the same way. It's probably the same way Carlos needs to train Tony. Bad legislator, bad. No to THC caps. That's all you can do in 10 seconds.
I mean, mine's a little bit easier and calm. You're a piece of shit.
I mean, I think during the Kavanaugh trial, those ladies confronted Senator Flake, and they had their 10 seconds, and they had their impact on him. And he looked like a cowering puppy at the end of that thing, and then he went ahead and voted Kavanaugh in anyway. So know that no matter how much impact you have, sometimes you can't move an immovable object when it comes to the opinions of certain politicians. But we have to let them know that they are not voting our wishes; they're voting the wishes of their campaign donors. And to be honest with you, the campaign donors don't have as many votes as we do, and they have to understand that once the campaign is over, we are the ones who decide. We the voters, we the people, that kind of situation. But you have to let them know that as well. So we're going to keep an eye on the cap. We're going to see if it goes forward. We'll let you know if anything else goes forward, and we are always going to need your help to go ahead and contact legislators and say, this bill needs to be put on committee. This bill needs to be added. This amendment needs to be passed. And we'll let you know exactly who and what we're going to be targeting to get those things done. Federally, we got our issues too. Like you said, we have people who are being forced to work at home because of security clearance in the White House. But we also have senators like Dianne Feinstein, who is, I guess, 89 now. And from what I understand, bless her heart, is having some problems with dementia, even though she's still keeping her job, who's also pushing for caps on a federal level.
Maybe she forgot that it's the 2020s. Maybe she's thinking it's the 1920s. I don't know.
Maybe she forgot that she came from San Francisco, for God's sakes.
Oh man, it is a lot to take in. One of the things in all of this that strikes me is something that one of the founding fathers of this nation, Patrick Henry. Many people are familiar with his line, "Give me liberty or give me death." But he had another great quote, and if I'm recalling it correctly, it is, as long as the transactions of the leaders of this nation remain in the dark, then there can be no truth or freedom. And I'm paraphrasing it, but the fact is that the dark money in politics is the biggest issue that we have to good public policy. And if we want public policy that benefits the greatest amount of people, we have to take out the corporate donations in politics. At the federal level, I've ran a congressional campaign. I was shocked to learn that businesses don't get to write checks directly to candidates. That is not the case here in Florida. A business has the same rights as a citizen and can write a check directly to candidates. Candidates take money from businesses all the time in the Florida legislature.
Or to their PACs.
Yeah, and then on top of that, businesses can still donate to PACs. Taking money out of politics is the only way we're going to see good public policy. And, the fact is that the politicians have to regulate themselves to do that. They need to pass the laws, the lawmakers. So it is a vicious cycle. It's the same way when we see politicians saying we need to cut spending, but then vote to give themselves a raise. So it is infuriating to see how out of touch the people who are elected to represent us actually govern and represent us, because the fact is we're not being represented. We, the people, are a majority in support of legalization. We, the people, are a majority in support of a pro-patient centered market, and that is not what we've gotten. So elections matter. This 2022 election, you should get organized now. Register to vote. Join Suncoast NORML. We are going to launch a massive 2022 operation to hit the ground running, to put boots on the ground, to put our volunteers and our members where they can be most effective to get prohibitionists out of office and to push public policy forward in the right manner. We need you to join us in this fight.
Now, here, this is interesting. There's a particular PAC that has to do with healthcare that is associated with Rep. Roche, and he got $750,000 during the last couple of weeks when this bill's been moving forward. Now, it's very possible that this bill may fail. It's also possible it may move forward. But the thing is that the end result is, regardless of the outcome in regards to the bill is concerned, Rep. Roche's campaign is going to have a hell of a lot more money in it than it did before. And perhaps that is his end game. Maybe it's just the money itself and not necessarily the policy. That's hard to say. But I can tell you that here in Suncoast NORML, we also need your treasure. So if you have an inkling to give it to Spencer Roche, I would think twice and send us a donation to help us move these bills forward and defeat these guys who are getting the big money from these Citizens United type of groups that suddenly, as a corporation, have a voice like a human being.
There's a guy that's just
it's like Ultron.
Posting in the comments, caps are anti-white, camps are anti-Asian.
Hey,
it's the funniest thing I've ever seen.
Well, it's a fair commentary and parody over the simplicity of a lot of things that happen now. If you can characterize a public policy as racist or as oppressive, then it creates a buzz campaign to get people moving. Again, hearts and minds, and really hearts at the end of the day are what really move. Passion moves people more than logical and rational thought. I mean, I've been up in front of the Florida legislature and give very, rational and logical sounding arguments just to have it dismissed over folks whose passions are in the opposite direction. So I appreciate him pointing that out through that, and seeing, just keep throwing stuff and see if it sticks. I mean, the fact is that we gotta find something that sticks to get these THC caps out there. And one thing I want to point out is every single politician that is supporting THC caps, mainly Spencer Roche and Ray Rodriguez, are all from Lee County, from Fort Myers area. So if you are watching this right now, you're from Fort Myers, you have a bigger impact than anyone in the state in helping us get rid of these folks, especially if you're a Republican from Fort Myers, because you can help get these folks out in your party primaries and they can never see the light of day ever again. So please, if you're paying attention, anyone from the Fort Myers area, let's do what you can in 2022 to get rid of Roche.
We're literally an hour. We've literally gone an hour, and we kind of got to go.
Indeed.
This is not one of your space-time dilation things.
I wanna do one more plug.
Oh, go ahead.
For the best bunt of the bay. That's a pretty nifty way of putting it up there.
That's a beautiful graphic.
That is a beautiful graphic.
Oh, stop, guys!
And is that your fingers with that paper that's doing that? Because
I can't.
I can tell because that was a much better blunt than
I can't roll a blunt. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and if you want to, this is going to be a great and fun competition. Folks will be able to come out. Again, cannabis is community. We're going to have some amazing vendors out there. Our partners at Hemp for Water are going to be out there with a booth. They'll be educating folks on all the great values of hemp. We're going to be rolling some great hemp flower. So come on out to the best blunt in the Bay. If you think you got what it takes to roll it, become a competitor. Get your competitor ticket locked in before we sell out. If you want to be a judge, get your judges tickets in before they sell out. Of course, general admission is free to all Suncoast NORML members. So by all means, get your membership today to Suncoast NORML. Event details on our website. Get your tickets now.
And let you be the guy who has the trophy at hand and go talk to the microphone and say, "That's how I roll."